Hi everyone, back here again, and I've got my galaxy in front of me. Next up is to create a planet. Now, what you need to do is you need to find some sort of texture online and bring that into Photoshop. I happen to have something already saved in my Creative Cloud libraries. I've created a library called Grade 5 2017, and I had these available for the kids to choose from, Planet 1, Planet 2, and Planet 3. All the computers have been signed in with the same account, and they all have this library for the kids to look at. So, just looking at random, I might double click on Planet 1. So let's do that. That brings it up into Photoshop. That's great. Let's close the libraries panel. Don't need that now. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to use the elliptical tool. Now, right over here, the second tool, the marquee tool, mine is right now at a rectangle. I need to change that. So I'm going to click and hold it. Go to the elliptical tool, let go. Now I've got the elliptical tool, which is basically a circle selection tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the top corner. And I want to hold down the shift button while I'm doing this. That will create a perfect circle. So hold down the shift button, then click and drag all the way to the bottom corner. Whoa, gone too far. Hey, whoa, what's going on? Let's just do it there, exactly where I want it, and let go. Let's bring that back up so I can see everything. Maybe just zoom out a bit. There we go. All right, got a nice, perfect circle around my texture. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to press Control J. That's going to make a copy of the layer, but only the area that I selected, which is the circle, as you can see here. Okay, so now we're going to apply a filter to it, and we're going to go to Filter, Distort, and choose Spherize. That's what I want. So I'll click on that. I want to make sure the amount is 100%. You know, I actually want 200%, but I can't do 200%. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 100%, press OK, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Another 100%, that'll make it 200%. Okay, so I could go over here and go to Distort and Spherize again, but actually, right, my first option is always the last filter that I applied, which in this case is Spherize. So I could go to Filter, Spherize, just like that, and bang, there you go. That's what I'm going to be using. That looks good. All right, so now I need to drag this and just this layer, this circle one, onto my galaxy. So I'm going to click on that layer 2. I'm clicking and holding on it, and I'm going to move it right up to that first file I had, the star field, and then bring it down. I still have my finger on the button, and just let it go somewhere in the middle. There we go. Now, that is bright. That doesn't look good at all. And why? Because it is in between these two layers. Really, it should be at the top. So I need to drag that up to the top there in the layer stack. Now it's looking like the texture that I had in the first file. There we go. Okay, so that's my planet. What I need to do is to press Control T. That's my transform tool. And with that, I can resize it and move it. And again, holding the shift button so it is in proportion, I might resize it to about that big. And I might, I could put it over here, perhaps, which I think is what I did in the example. I could put it over here like that. But you know what? For this one, let's do something different. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and I'm going to shift drag and make it nice and big and put it like that. Let's do that just for something different. That looks good. I'll press tick to accept that, and I'll press Control 0 just to zoom that into the window there. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on the new layer button at the bottom of the layer panel, and I'm going to get my brush tool out. Where's my brush tool? My brush tool is here. And I'm going to think of a tint that I want for my planet. Now, let me look at this planet. I think maybe a pink tint. Why not? Something out there, crazy. So I'm going to choose my foreground color, find pink. There it is, nice hot pink. Maybe a softer pink, maybe something like that. Okay, that looks good. If you want to follow along with me, that code is DF68F9, but really it does not matter what color you choose. I wouldn't choose a shade like black, white, or gray, but any other color. I let the kids do whatever they want. All right, so that's the one I'm going to choose. I've got a soft brush. I might change that to a hard brush. Let's right click, change the hardness to 100. It does not really matter how big my brush is going to be, because I'm now just going to paint over my planet. Oh, something's happened. I can barely see it. Why is that? That's right. My opacity is still at 10%. No, I need it at 100%. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go to Edit, Undo. Let's make sure that we've got the opacity up to 100%. You know what? I did that on purpose. I just wanted to make sure that you realize your brush was probably at 10% because that's where you last left it. So you might want to make sure that you follow along with me properly. Okay, so as you can see, I've made a new layer here. I've done that on purpose because I'm not painting on my planet. I'm painting on the layer on top of my planet. I'm just going to be messy. I'm just going to do that. There we go. Does not really matter how it looks. I can even do that. Who cares? Doesn't matter. As long as my planet is completely covered, and it is. Why can you be messy? Well, I'll tell you why. You can clip these two layers together. In my case, it's layer 4 and layer 3. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and put my mouse between those two layers. You can see that black arrow there, and just do one single click. Wow, look at that. It has now clipped that color to the shape that's below it, which is the planet there. That's a beautiful thing. Now, obviously, it's ridiculous. It's way too, pink, and I can't see anything behind it. So there's a couple of things we're going to do. We're going to change the blend mode. Now, I've experimented around. I like soft light, so I'm going to change normal to soft light, which is here in the middle. And I'm going to change the opacity. That's still too pink for my liking. So I'm going to change the opacity and change it to 75. So I might just click inside here and just type in 75, press enter, and that looks pretty good. You know what? I did choose a pretty hot pink. So I usually get the kids to leave it at 75, but you know what? I might even bring mine down quite a bit more, 55 maybe, so it's not quite so full on, shall we say. All right, I'm making my opacity 55%, and I'll stand by that. Okay, what am I going to do now? Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sort of faux shadow. I'm going to create a new layer. Where's my mouse? Click new layer by clicking on the new layer button at the bottom of the layers panel. And I am going to control click layer 3. Now this is important. I'm on layer 5. It's the one that's active because it's light gray. But I want to have a selection of the planet. So by control clicking the thumbnail, it has automatically put a selection around just that part of that layer. And I want to fill that with black. So edit, fill, make sure it's black, fill with black. Done. Okay. Very important that you create that new layer so you're not filling black onto your planet or onto your pink blend layer here. We just want this new layer to be filled with black. That's great. Okay, I'm going to make that layer into a layer mask by clicking on the layer mask here button at the bottom of the layers panel. I want to unlink these two so I can move them independently. Go into the move tool here at the top. And now I'm just going to move it down about like that. Okay, a little bit more than what I want my shadow to be honest. I am going to fix that later. Okay, that looks good. Now, obviously, does not look like a shadow. Looks like a black circle on top of my planet. So let's fix that. Let's go to Filter, Blur, and our old friend Gaussian Blur. Click on that. Now, right now it's at 80%. That was what it was set to last time when we did the galaxy. Let's change that to 15% and have a look. That's pretty harsh. Let's try 35%. I don't mind 35%. I think that looks good for my image. You might want to play around with it to see what looks good for you, but I'm going to choose 35. I'm happy with that. I'll press OK. Then I'm going to press Control T for my transform tool, and I'm just going to hold down my shift button so it's in proportion, and I'm just going to drag that shadow a little bit up that way and a little bit up that way. Now it's up to you. I mean, I could have that shadow sort of going towards like that, assuming that the light source is coming from up here, or I could do the opposite. I could do over here. But I think I will do it centered. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. There's only one thing though. I'll press tick to accept that change. I might change the opacity, I think, to 90% of that layer, that shadow, just so it's not quite so strong. So 90 and press OK. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm happy with that shadow. You happy with that shadow? I'm happy with the shadow. Okay, What next? Okay, we're going to put a glow around this. So I'm going to make sure that the planet layer is selected because we want the glow to be around the planet. We don't want the glow to be around the shadow. So let's make sure that the planet layer is active. So I'm going to click on the effects button here and go to outer glow. Now, let's have a look at what my settings need to be. Right now it's a white glow. That's not what I want. I'm going to click on this little swatch over here. And the code I'm using is D7CAB8, which is a sort of, I don't know, pale rust, I guess. Let's press OK on that. That's the color that I want. My opacity, I want at 35%. I want the blend mode to be screen. Let's keep that. The spread, I don't want any spread, so let's put that at 0. The size I want at 60. Let's put that at 60. Now I can see that there's some noise here that I don't like. I think it's probably because of the jitter. Let's put the jitter down to 0. And let's see a preview of that. That looks good. Okay. The range can stay at 50%. That's fine. Okay, so as long as your settings are like mine, you'll probably see the same sort of effect. That looks good for the outer glow. Now let's click on the inner glow. Now the inner glow, I want to be very similar. I'm going to keep that same color. So that was D7CAB8. There we go. Press OK. This one I want is 40%. So let's put that at 40% here. I want the screen mode to be lighten. So let's go down to lighten over here. That's nice. And sort of subtle effect. And the size for this one, same, I think 60 pixels. There we go. All right, happy with all of that. I've got my range at 50, my jitter at 0. That's what I want. Okay, let's press OK. So now I've got my glow. Now, by clicking on this little eyeball here next to the effects, I can do a before and after. That's before, that's after, and I think you'll agree it really does add something to the planet there to give it that nice little bit of a glow. Okay, so we've got one more thing to do, and that's to create that star in the background, that lens flare. Now, to do that, what I'm going to do is to click on the top layer, and I'm going to create what's called a composite snapshot, which is basically take everything that you've done so far, mix it together in one layer, put it at the top, but still leave the layers that you've done below. That makes sense. So the shortcut for that is Control, Shift, Alt, E. You need 2 hands for this probably. Control, Shift, Alt, E. One time. There we go. My layer 6 is now the composite of everything. Looks really good. Okay, let's do a lens flare. Let's go to Filter, Render, and Lens Flare. I'm going to choose the 35mm prime over here. I'm going to bring the brightness down to about 75%. And here in this little window, I can move this to be pretty much wherever I want. Now, I'm not going to put it on top of the planet. That'd be silly. I could put it up here in the distance. I could put it here. I could put it there. I actually prefer it when it's right over here, just on the edge of the planet there. And I'll press OK and see how that looks. Beautiful. So I've done this project with the Year 5s. They have done different textures. They have done different tints. They have painted their galaxies in different ways. All of them look quite different, even though we're basically going through the same steps for each one. So there you go. That's how I've created my galaxy and then my planet inside Photoshop.